have some people still trickle in, but we want to maximize our time with Hannah. So welcome everyone to our first CREES noon lecture of 2026 of our winter semester. And my name's Elizabeth King. I'm the director of the Center for Russian, East European, Eurasian Studies, and also faculty over at the School of Public Health. I just want to take a chance to tell you the rest of our series that's upcoming this semester. So our next CREES Noon lecture will be on February 18th. We'll be joined by Dr. Natasha Kovacevic to talk about non-alignment and decolonial imagination, Yugoslav literary economies with the Global South. And then March 25th, we'll be joined by Dr. Michelle Rifkin-Fish, talking on a global perspective on campaigns for reproductive rights, insights from Soviet and contemporary Russia. April 1st, we'll be joined by Dr. Viktor Petrov, The Information Age Behind the Iron Curtain, Bulgarian Computers and the Society They Tried to Build. And finally, on April 15th, we'll be joined by Victoria Lamasco for a talk on the last Soviet artist. Those materials are available, more information, right? Those are available if you want them in print form on the table, or our calendar is there as well as the opportunity to join our listserv for those of you who haven't already subscribed. And then a couple of other housekeeping announcements or upcoming news that CREES is happy to co-sponsor a lecture on February 10th, which will be here in this room on that's a Center for Emerging Democracies lecture, Folk Democracy in Post-War Czechoslovakia by Mira Marham, who's a postdoc here at U of M, and then two upcoming WCE films, part of their film series on Ukraine, Erase the Nation on Tuesday, February 10th, right after the lecture. You can go over to State Theater from 5 to 6:30, and also Tuesday, February 17th, Soldiers of Song, also at State Theater. So those are some of our upcoming events that we would be happy to see you all at. And today, for our first, as I mentioned, of the semester, we're joined by Anna Narinskaya for a talk on Poetic Voice from a Russian Prison, Zhenya Berkovich and her striking protest. Just do a quick introduction of Anna before I turn over the microphone to her. So Anna Narinskaya is a Russian journalist, playwright, art curator, and activist. She's currently in residence here at the University of Michigan as a fellow at the Frankel Institute for Advanced Judaic Studies. In Russia, she worked for newspapers Kommersant and Novaya Gazeta, curated exhibitions at the Pushkin Museum, the Museum of Modern Art, and the Jewish Museum, and collaborated with the Gogol Center. In 2018, she was one of the organizers of the March of Mothers, protesting against the persecution of teenagers in Putin's Russia. And in 2022, after Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, she immigrated to Germany, where she writes for the Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, general newspaper, and collaborates with the Gorky Theater. Her latest projects include the play My Beloved Country, based on the best-selling book by Yelena Kostuchenko, who we had here at University of Michigan about almost 2 years ago now, right? But you could still check her book talk on our CREES YouTube channel as well. And Anna Narinskaya also, her second project is the exhibition No Such People Here, which tells the story of the oppression of LGBTQ people in Chechnya. But today she's going to talk about Poetic Voice from a Russian Prison, Zhenya Berkovich and her striking protest.
Hello, thank you.
So you have to be mic'd up. Sorry.
Okay. So how do you do that?
You can put that on and have it well. Just clip it to wherever seems natural for you, but that way it will pick up for the recording.
Is it okay like that? Okay.
Yep, should be fine. Thank you.
So can we okay. Can I start? Right. First of all, thank you for your generous presentation of myself, and also I kind of thought that the talk going to be an hour. Now I understand it's 40 minutes, so I just asked maybe Liz if she sees that I talk too much, too long, then just to wave and I will kind of make it shorter. So okay. Okay, that's no. I want to start what I want to say in advance, that today, as in previous weeks, people in Ukraine are freezing, and they've been specifically aimed, civilians were specifically aimed by Russia, actually, to kind of, so what's going on, it's not the military infrastructure staying, but the lives of ordinary people. And yesterday, in the Holocaust Memorial Day, the old woman who, as a child, survived Holocaust in Ukraine was found dead in her flat in central Kiev. The person I'm going to talk to you about, Zhenya Berkovich, actually was the first one, actually absolutely the first one, who protested against the full-scale invasion to Ukraine. And it happened on 24th of February 2022, when all of us, people who are against Putin and everything, were just sitting in our apartments, absolutely, in hysterical and staring into the wall. And it was the morning, and Zhenya organized a chat of friends on Facebook and said that she's going to go and protest at the underground station. And there was no one, including me, who would support her. So we were so hysterical, so kind of disoriented that we even didn't respond. I don't remember myself actually responding. And she went to the underground station called Airport in the kind of not far from the center of Moscow, and stood there with a kind of a piece of paper saying no to war in Ukraine. And she was detained. She was put to detention center for 2 weeks, to the detention center called Sakharovo, which is specifically organized for A, protesters, and B, which are going to be close to American hearts, so-called illegal immigrants. So that is specifically organized for these people. I was looking for this picture of her because I remember then that picture was on Facebook protesting on the first day of full-scale invasion at the underground station, but I didn't find it. Because her Facebook page, was killed. Like, it doesn't exist anymore. But I want to show you another picture. And this is the first page of her letter to me from prison she is now. And there's a joke about Russian protesting immigrants coming abroad and always complaining about the very bad online services there are in the countries they came to. Because in Russia we have incredible online services, which is true, incredible, nothing to be compared to. And it's interesting that, like all these incredible Russian online services, they climaxed in this brilliant service of writing to prison. So you can write online to prison, and it's really fast and really kind of customer-friendly organized. So it's done, kind of because people were understanding while doing this, making this service, that at some point the half of the country going to be to prison, and we should organize something to, for them to communicate. This is a private letter, so I cannot really read it to you, but I want to show you the letter, and I got it translated, which Zhenya sent again for prison in April to all of us on her birthday. And here's Zhenya in the cage during the trial I'm going to tell you about. So now, in April 29, 2025, she's writing, "Hello, friends. Well, here's my report. I am celebrating my 40th birthday as a very happy person. Yeah, in prison with almost 6 years to go, without any guilt, almost without contact with my loved ones. Shocking. That is 40. Where's the wisdom? It's time, following Solzhenitsyn, to write about how to rebuild Russia, how to properly serve time in prison for political reasons, how the world works, and how to make a hot sandwich using a plastic bag and a kettle. But seriously, it's time to get serious. I still believe that prison, war, and grief cannot make anyone better, freer, or happier. But that doesn't mean that in prison, in grief, in war, a person with a human and God's help cannot be happy happy and free. Of course they can. Well, okay, at least they can try. Here I'm trying. And that's her. That's the person I'm talking about sending this letter to her friends out of prison. And so here they are, because that's Zhenya Berkovich, here she is, and this, as you can see, the picture was taken before the previous one, because her hair is longer. And this is Svetlana Petrichuk. So Zhenya is a director, and Svetlana Petrichuk is a playwright, and they've been imprisoned. They've been arrested on May 4th, 2023, for the play they staged together. So Sveta is the author of the play, and Zhenya is the director, and I would say a muse. So the play is called, so the case against them is justifying terrorism. So, which is, they justify terrorism in the play, in the show. The play is called Finist, the Bright Falcon. And for those of you who know something about Russia, you know that the Finist, the Bright Falcon, Finist, Yasny Sokol, is the very popular folk tale. And it's about this elusive groom, and the young woman who is in love with the groom, she should go through sufferings and through lots of kind of so at the cost of this suffering, this girl should, get this groom. And so very Russian thing, right? A woman goes through suffering to get a man. And so on this basis, Svetlana and Zhenya, they told the real story based on real documents about Russian women who get acquainted online with men. And actually, they fell in love with them online, and they decide to go to them and travel to them. And these men appeared to be ISIS militants. And this was a very actually famous case. Maybe somebody of you heard about it. And the woman, like the kind of very famous case, was about this girl called Varvara Kraulova, who met this boy online. She went to him to Syria. He appeared to be ISIS person. And then she got spooked and went back. But back in Russia, she was sentenced for 4 years. She was tried to participating in a terrorist organization. And it was all the time on the news, so it was not kind of a secret story, it was a very famous story. So Zhenya and Sveta, or on the contrary, Sveta first and Zhenya, they decided to make a show out of it. And in this show, I mean, what I want to underline what the show is really about. The show is showed actually how the patriarchal system of Russian society pushes women to hunt for real men. Real men is the idea, this macho, real man. And then it shows who are those real men, who feels this macho ideal. And that's the entire patriarchal societies in Russia actually puts you in a position to look for a militant. And that's what the play is about. I just want to show you a little abstract just for you to get a gist how it was done. And I kind of encourage you to read the subtitles. They sing.
Своими действиями предумышленными совершила преступление.
Okay, I think that's enough, but you understand that it's a completely documentary text of the case against this girl is put on this folk Russian singing. And that's how the play is done. It's absolutely documentary play, which is, so it's documentary contemporary Russian situation put into folk setting. And it was incredible success. It was kind of full houses all the time, and so it was absolutely official play. It was in a real theater, like more than real. It was in a state theater, and then it got the biggest prize, which actually the play can get in Russia. It's called Golden Mask. So, and it is state prize. And after that, after the full-scale invasion started, which of course, and the repressions boomed, like as the full-scale repression started, and at first people, even me, were starting to kind of show our disgust and that we are not with it and everything. So like the repressions were kind of going in waves. And so in May 2023, and that's very important that it's May, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, the girls were arrested and for justifying terrorism. And of course, it's a show trial, because maybe now the repressions in Russia not at the level of Stalin's repressions, but methods are absolutely the same. So this is a show trial. What this trial aims to show? It aims to show that even like the so-called freedom, absolutely even before, but kind of little bit pretense maybe freedom of art is in Russia, in Putin's Russia, is absolutely over, and that is, and you cannot criticize authorities even metaphorically. Before that, you couldn't say anything about like real situation, but you could give hints. Now, that's over. You cannot give any hints anymore. And what is, for me, is even more important, that this arrest showed that you cannot criticize what call in Putin's ideology скрепы, I would say common moral values of Putin's Russia, which is patriarchal family. And patriarchal family is incredibly important for Russia, as maybe some of you know that, for example, the domestic violence is decriminalized in Russia because a husband can beat his wife. He can, because like he is начальник, he is on the top, he is the boss. And it's very much mirrors the Putin's position, the very hierarchical position that the boss, начальник, he is on the top, and like it's hierarchically goes down. Anyway, so that was the case, and on July 8th, 2024, Sveta and Zhenya, they were sentenced for 6 years in prison. Both of them, they get the same sentence. And now to something not completely different, but I wanna show you something now and read it with me. I wanna read it to you and then tell you what it is. So, there are more people here than anyone would like. More than anyone would like. Who exactly? Well, pretty much everyone. Those who live in prison cells, large and small, built for 4 people and for 40. And those who guard them, feed them, take them out for a walk, search them, and even let's not to be afraid of the world, frisk them. And we, the ones writing this story, would also prefer that there were no one here, at least not us. That's the beginning of Zhenya's book called Pets, which she wrote in detention center. So she was in detention center, another one, not Sakharova, but even which called Matroskaya Tishina, Sailor's Silence, which is a horrible detention center in Moscow. So she was there, and she wrote this book, which is a book about animals in prison. It's a children's book. It's a very funny book. And I'm showing you now the cover of how this book is published in Berlin in Russian language, because Zhenya's lawyer, Ksenia Karpinskaya, she managed to get the manuscript, and it's all written by hand, because you understand there is no computer in detention center. So it's all written by hand, and it's this a funny book for kids, which is written in detention cell, which, for example, at some point Zhenya was on a hunger strike. So she, I mean, like, and also once she was put in this kind of most horrible cell, you know, where they put people to punish them. I've forgotten what the name of it, but like karcer in Russian, whatever. So she was, sorry?
In the shoe.
Yeah, in the shoe, right. Sorry. So, and she was going through all of it, but still she wrote this very funny book, kind of aimed for kids. So, the book is about, as I said, the main character of the book is a crow. It's a very, and it's important, very kind of fancy crow. She's a female crow, and she is very flirty and coquettish and everything, and she makes friends with all the animals who are cats, rats, and cockroaches in prison, and kind of this is the view of the prison or through the eyes of those animals. The book, it's like a script for a musical, because these animals, these cockroaches and rats, they sing all the times. So the book is full of songs, and these songs are very interesting, and I'm going to a little bit talk about them. But now I want to just very quickly, because I understand I don't have time already, to show you what I feel are two major influences, because to be honest with you, in spite of the fact that Russian history, obviously with all these imprisonments and kind of always being horrible, it gives us enormous amount of literature based on being in prison. But so we know Solzhenitsyn, we know Shalamov, we know Dostoevsky, notes from Dead House, we know lots of things. But I should mention that mostly they're written after a person is out of prison. They're sort of memoirs. They're, for a lot of reasons, actually most of them practical, because it's not easy guards watching you to keep like writing in prison. They're not written in prison. And of course, even less of those texts, they are comical. They're not comical, ever. So I found, and I written to Zhenya, to prison, and she said, written with me, yes, I wrote it under the influence of this book, so I'm very proud of myself, but I want you to see it and to know about it. This is an incredible comics. It's a comic strip made in 1942 in Karlag, in Gulag, by the woman called Olga Ranitskaya. And that's called Mitya Devil, because she was working in the Mitya station as being a prisoner in Karlag. And for her son, she was, of course, imprisoned there for espionage, as was like the generic case at the time. And her son, he was out of thank God, well, not thank God, but anyway, he was free. So, and he was like 12, and she wanted to talk to him about her experience, but she didn't want to make him afraid. She didn't want to spook him. So this woman, she invented this way to talk about her life in camp through comic. And this is her main character, called the Meteor Devil. He's a very small devil who also can talk to animals. And all the situation in the camp is shown through his eyes. And this manuscript got very tragic history. The boy, it's been done for the son of Narinskaya committed suicide. So while she was in the camp, and she stopped doing that, but then it was kept in the camp, this little book by a friend, and then published by Novaya Gazeta. In recent years, it's like maybe 2000s. Anyway, that's the one. That's the one influence, and actually I think that, this thing should be talked about more because that's an incredible material. Actually, the only comic book about done in Russian Gulag, about Russian Gulag, but Soviet Gulag. But there is another influence. One, because of course also Zhenya is incredibly influenced by late Soviet animation films. And all these characters, like all animals and cockroaches, they are as if they walked out these animation films we all loved in our childhood. And the particular one I want to show you a little gist of is this, and those who are from Russia, they know it, but let me show you.
Нам помнится вороне, кар-кар-кар-кар-кар-кар-кар, а может быть собаки, хоу-хоу-хоу-хоу-хоу-хоу, а может быть корове, му-му-му-му-му-му. Однажды повезло, прислал ей кто-то сыра, грамм думается 200, а может быть и 300, а может полкило.
Okay, so this is the very, very famous, maybe some of you know it, the Soviet, it's of 1980, animated film called The Clay Crow, and it's made by Evgeny Tatarsky, who is like incredibly prominent and talented, and director of animated, and actually not only animated films, but what is it and what is important in connection with Zhenya's book? Because as it's a kids, it's made for kids. It's based on Krylov fable about the crow and cheese. It's supposed to be a Zop fable, but now it's Krylov fable. We're not going to go into that. But what is it for adults and how? It's a postmodern discussion about relativity of truth. Because what is he saying? He's saying it could be a crow, it could be a cow, it could be somebody, a sheep or somebody else, and maybe she got cheese or maybe not cheese, and blah, blah, blah. So that is very much in sync with the Western philosophy of the time, with like a French new philosophy, tale about relativity of truth. Actually about post-truth, we would say now. So, and it was very much understood by people at the time who, in Soviet Union, were very much used to reading in between the lines or watching, I would say, looking in between the frames. So, Zhenya's book, doing absolutely the same thing. She is, okay. That's in a minute. She is writing in children's books, and actually kids would love it because it's very funny. And even though it's about prison, it's very funny. But between the lines, she is giving lots and lots of context to adults who would read it. And actually, so it's like goes both ways. And what she's doing for adults is not only the truth about prison, which is being said there in this language, but also it's the songs she written, and all these songs, they're they're actually parodies on the most beloved poetry by Russian people. It's like she got Nekrasov, and mostly she got Voznesensky, but mostly she got Brodsky. So these are lots and lots of parodies on Brodsky, and I'm not going to read it, but if you read it, it's very funny. It's like a gist of the idea of Brodsky poetry. It's not like parody on, there are parody on kind of exact poems, but it's mostly about like the poetic of Brodsky, right? We love. And, we mostly love, I would say. Anyway, which brings me to Zhenya's poetry. And there is a big discussion, which I think it's not ethical to take part in, but I just want to tell you about the discussion exists for kind of when we say, and for what exactly did she get to prison? Why was she arrested? What is the inner kind of reason for that? Because like it's an absurd, absolutely absurd case. So and lots of people would say that she actually got to prison for her poetic project. Because really in just starting like maybe half a year before the beginning of full-scale invasion, she started regularly write poetry and post it on Facebook, and this poetry became, specifically these poems, they became incredibly popular, which is not very often case with poetry actually, so people would, but I mean, I was at that point in Moscow, so I would go to the underground and sit in a car, and people next to me would always read Zhenya's poem from the screen of his or her phone. They were really kind of everywhere. So I, in a moment, or even now, I think I would like to explain my understanding why they are so popular. So what, maybe let's do it other way around. So now I want to just present to you, and I don't know how to do it better. I just do it little bit. For you, you can read it, and I'm not going to read it translated by Anna Krushelinskaya, but I just want, it's a very famous, maybe the most famous of your poems about the grandfather, the ghost actually of grandfather, who appears in the kitchen of the person, and this ghost talks to him. And
Maybe Anna Krushelinskaya, do we have time for me to read it?
okay.
No?
I
don't want to.
Yeah. Because I got a little bit, but maybe, I don't know. Sorry. I just maybe, that's fine. But I just, because we actually have some of more translations, not the last one. But anyway, I just wanted to say something about this poem, which makes it so dramatically anti-Putin Russia. It's because it aims the most important, again, skrepa, moral value of today's Russia, which is presenting the dead as the reason, the dead people, and the memory of the dead as the reason to the of the aggression of today. But actually, what Zhenya says in this poem is even more radical, because she is saying there at some point that for her, it's not important whether it's a patriot or a liberal who uses this memory, because she says, in a way, that memory is a cannibalism, because you take from dead people their real life and what they really lived through, and you replace it by your ideas. So that's the crime against the dead which we are making. So it's actually, this poem is really not acceptable. Not for, of course, Putin and all this, because, you know, this guy, but it's very important to say that the ghost is the ghost of the World War II veteran, which is like cult in today's Russia. Like the victory in Great Patriotic War is the cult in today's Russia. So, but it's actually, for me, it's very important that she is actually taking it again both ways. It's not only about bad people like Putinists. It's also about us who are abusing the memory of the dead the same way, actually. So this poem became incredibly popular. It was absolutely everywhere. The oppositional channel Dozht Rain made a video out of it. I want to show you a little gist, even though I'm running out of time. So the pictures you're going to see there from the march, which is organized every year, the V-Day, the Victory Days in Russian cities. They call the бессмертный.
То ли новостей перебрал, то ли вина в обед, только ночью к Сергею пришел его воевавший дед. Сел на киевскую табуретку, спиной заслоняя двор за окном. У меня, говорит, к тебе, Сереженька, разговор.
Okay, you know, it's because anyway, this text was incredibly unpopular, and it was criticized by the notorious, horrible Russian director slash patriotic influencer Nikita Mikhalkov in his program. So lots of people would think that that's because of that mocking, she's not mocking, but kind of criticizing the victory cult. But I don't think, again, it's ethical to get into this kind of discussion, what's the real reason. The main thing is absolutely unjust. But what I want to say about the secret of success of these poems, the thing is that unlike absolutely majority of Russian poets, because in Russia poetry is very now kind of radically modern. It's very sort of non-conventional. I mean, mostly, right. Specifically among liberal poets, I would say, if you can say liberal poet. And what Zhenya does, she gets a form, a very traditional form, of the poetry we know by heart, of the poetry of Nekrasov and Lermontov and Brodsky, actually, of the poetry which we learned at school, and she puts very modern meaning into it. And again, the most kind of incredible, heartbreaking example is the poem called Fishes. And I just encourage you to read, I will read out loud the epigraph, which is a news. It's a piece of news, real news. So you know what happened in Mariupol, the theater was bombed by Russians. It was bombed and people were sitting in the basement of the theater, and there was a big sign on the theater called Deity, kids, but it still was bombed. Now we read the news. The government of the Donetsk People Republic, you know, it's a fake republic specifically made to kind of show that Russia got support in Ukraine, stated that the full order in the Mariupol Drama Theater and around it was caused by human bodies but human bodies left to decompose inside after the bombing, but rather by the large fish storage in the basement. As to the theater itself, it was never bombed at all, but rather exploded from the inside by the nationalist Azov militants. And then it's a poem about a fish in a theater. So, and again, in form, it's a traditional poem. So it's easy to learn by heart. You're not reluctant when you read through it because it's easy to read. Again, it's like the poetry we know by heart, but it's filled with this kind of the sense or is like that. So I am absolutely sure, there is no doubt about it, that up to Zhenya's, even after she was in prison, like maybe to the end of 2023, her poetry was the most important anti-war project in Russia. So, and I'm coming to the end. I'm close. So the climax of that was her incredible gesture. This thing which I think is rather unprecedented. So it was her final statement in court, in her case, which she read as a poem. She made it's her final statement in court is a poem. I have, so that's again honest translation of that, but it's really real abstract. But I think even that's the gesture in this case is more important than the poem, the words itself. What she is saying by that, she is saying your court is an absurd. Your court is theater. It's staged. So I would behave myself as if I'm in theater. As in I'm in Shakespeare's theater, as if in a Racine theater. So I will make my last word, my final statement in poetry. And though she's saying very practical things about her children, for she got 2 adopted daughters, always mentally challenged. So she's telling this, she's saying very practical things, but it is a poem. And in the end, she's saying, I know that the law and the miracle are the same things in this country. So the law is a miracle. So she has no hope for miracle, so there is no hope for law. But again, I'm saying that the ultimate moment when the truth, the reality, and art come together, that's this moment when you stand up in court and you read your final statement as a poem. So this thing was incredibly, again, influential in, say, Russian oppositional circles, whatever they are. And so maybe as a closing point, I want to show you a rap song, which was made based on this poem by very famous rappers and the also very famous Russian actress Chulpan Hamatova. And I want you to pay attention to the drawings because it's a video. The video made of drawings, of sketches of a person who was obviously present at Zhenya's trial and at Zhenya's trial, but decided to be anonymous because it's rather dangerous, specifically to kind of take part in the video like that. But it's a very good drawing. So here we go.
Ваша честь, я должна констатировать, все действительно так и есть, тут и нечего дискутировать.
И наши аргументы и правда всегда похожи, потому что от следствия каждый раз мы слышим один набор из формальных фраз и, естественно, отвечаем одно и то же. Все продолжает повторяться и повторяться.
Я уже не знаю, за что мне браться.
И как нам драться? Написать речь и спеть ее на бурятском? Продавать в ней рекламные интеграции?
Каждый раз, когда нас со Светой везут сюда, мы надеемся.
Но что-то никак пока. Как граждане мы рассчитываем на час суда, но каждый раз получается день сурка.
Okay. So, The last thing I want to say, maybe kind of in advance of your questions, we have some time for them. That some.
Plenty of time.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't.
I'll be.
we have-
Okay,
yeah.
sorry. Anyway, okay.
Don't-
I was rushing through this because I
Okay,
thought
tell
we got.
you- no,
But
that's-
anyway, so last thing I'm going to say before your questions is that I always been asked what we can do, how we can help. So, the only way you can help is write letters. So, and there is a very, again, incredible organization which I cannot, again, name, but which again, because actually you only can send letters from Russia and in Russian. But if you kind of take a picture of this, or if you write it down, there is a service where you can print letters. There is a list of prisoners you can write to, Zhenya included, or maybe you want to support somebody else because there are people less. You can write about them on the site because there are people less famous than Zhenya, because of course Zhenya is getting mail from me, for example, but not only from me, obviously. So you can print the letter there in English, they will translate it, and they will send it. So if that's the only way you can help, so the question of help is already solved enough. Now we can get questions. Thank you.
So if you have questions, just please, when you ask them, maybe just briefly state your name and your affiliation, so we can know that as well.
No questions?
So I would ask,
Okay.
when I was older, I don't have any affiliation. My question is, was Zhenya able to participate in any kind of a theater in the prison?
But you know the story, or you don't?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because I mean, the story is quite horrible. Okay, if you want me to tell the story, so it's, but it's, I just even don't know whom to blame it on, because it's not, you cannot blame it really on Putin. So it's like a human story. Yes, Zhenya, after she was detained, after she was sentenced, she was sent to this colony. Actually, they were sent to two different colonies. You know what colony is? It's like a settlement. It's prison, but it's like a camp, sort of. And people are supposed to work there. So women, they sew stuff. The working day is 12 hours. You stand, because there's no sitting, so you stand at the sewing machine and you sew for 12 hours. So actually working in the theater was like an escape, and Zhenya was really hoping she would do theater stuff in prison. And actually, kind of, they would have a Victory Day performance or some sort of performance. And so she wrote in the letter, one of the letters, he would, as the first letter I showed you, kind of send to the various peoples, like the mutual letter to various people, that she wants to, that she is asked to make a theater show with prisoners, with women prisoners, for the Victory Day. And then, of course, on Facebook and everywhere, the scandal started, like incredible, that she, that's working with the government, and again, the Victory Day is like a propaganda stuff. She is working with this propagandist, sort of on this propagandist-themed thing. So, and was a very famous, and actually famous dissident of Soviet time, Alexander Podryabinik, who written enormous article, very angry article, about that she is not, the Berkovich is not a real political prisoner, because political prison never would kind of corrupt to the extent as working in the theater in the camp, which is bullshit, because during the camp times, lots and lots of political prisoners would work specifically in the theater, and there is a beautiful book actually called Жизнь сапожок непарный. I mean, I wouldn't translate it, but actually there is a specific book written on the political prisoners in the camp working, etc. But anyway, what the camp systems hates the most, they hate scandal. They hate being discussed in outside. And even though Facebook is banned in Russia, like FSB, obviously, really sitting in Facebook and reading all this, as we say, srach, but all these kind of conversations and discussions. And after this letter of the dissident appeared, and after there was this explosion on social media about, is she corrupted, is she not corrupted, is it allowed for political prisoners, were writing people who are sitting in their homes by their fireplaces, is she allowed to stage in a camp, in a theater, the prison banned her from theater, and now she is again standing for 12 hours and suing like this ropes for workers for her, like her. So that's the story.
So in the answer would be you don't know, or we don't know if she...
No, I know that she's not working in theater. Yeah, I know for sure that after this incident she is not. No.
So he was the reason.
I mean, the scandal was the reason. Of course, I'm blaming him. I kind of very, very, very angry with him in particular. But actually, but that's the main question or problem of Russian reality, because we are used to that everything making something public is a good thing. That when you kind of write something openly about someone, it's a good thing. But actually, with Russia, it's not always like that. Like, I don't know whether I should give you various examples, but even, I mean, you can really hurt people when you even post something very, saying that they're great online, but great in the sense they don't obey Putin. So that's, you never know. That's actually a moral question for all of us, for all journalists describing today's Russia. How do we hurt people inside Russia when we write about them? Or is it my duty as a journalist to write about them, nevertheless, they could get hurt? Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Hi, my name is Bakhtibu. I'm first year graduate student here at CREES. So my question is, you mentioned about opposition too, and currently Russian opposition is in foreign countries, and
right.
They're escaping as a dissident. And I was just wondering about what kind of support they're doing to prisoners.
Okay. I am incredibly critical of Russian opposition.
And do you think that support is enough?
No, that support definitely is not enough. But again, that's actually very kind of, it's close to my last, sort of what I said last, because you never know. I am blaming Russian opposition. I think they're doing not what they should do. Put aside all kind of quarrels, all kind of, they cannot sit at the same table with each other, that the lot of people in kind of who are very high in the political position, they very much, unlike Zhenya, tainted by cooperating with Putin regime, even just before the war, but not 20 years ago. But I think the only concern of them should be actually maybe two things. First of all, political prisoners, and maybe some rights of immigrants as well. I don't know, because that's obvious. They cannot influence what's going on in Russia at all. Politically, there is no way they can. Actually, immigrants never could influence what's going on in Soviet Union or Russia. Unlike Lenin, they sit in the car and go to make revolution. So, that's a trick. But otherwise, no influence. You can say about the Voice of America and BBC, and you can, of course, make a kind of discuss something, but basically no. And now is Medusa or Dost, all these oppositional media, are they kind of helping? That's the question. But what the opposition should do is help political prisoners. They are not doing that.
And
I'm not saying, I'm doing something. Maybe I write letters and I give money. That's all I can do. I do that. So maybe some people in the opposition do the same thing. I'm sure they're writing letters and give money. But I mean as political entity. So, of course, I understand that in the current political atmosphere, there are no real hope of exchanges. Like there was a big exchange where people went out, exchange on the spies whom Putin loved. But I think that political prisoners should be really high on the agenda, and they're not. And there are lots of them, and some of them really dying, like Gorinov or other people. Some people, like Yuri Dmitriev, if you heard of him, the absolutely brilliant person who was actually making excavation of one of the Gulag sites and got in, was imprisoned on the fake, case by the local FSB. He's even never on the list. He's never mentioned anymore. So I am very critical, and I'm saying that actually the only it would be very important for people, and there are people, like for Zhenya's mother, it would be really important then she would have been mentioned, but she's not mentioned, like lots of other political prisoners. Okay. Yes.
Well, thinking about what you said about corresponding, and also about people kind of indirectly being affiliated with something that's forbidden. If I were to write a letter, I assume I would have to be careful of not criticizing
Absolutely.
or praising anything.
Okay. We can talk, I can teach lessons on that. It's writing letters to prisoners, of course, it's not easy. I'm not very much critical of people who are not writing those letters, because it's not easy, even not to write to a person you don't know, just saying, hello, I'm going to write you a letter, but also even to the person I know, because unfortunately, several of my friends are in prison, but you cannot criticize Putin. You actually cannot talk politics because you don't know what kind of you don't criticize Trump. You don't describe what ICE is doing, even though it's not in Russia, but it could be compared. We don't talk about police violence in our letters. We don't do anything of that. So book you read, film you watched, your thoughts on love, beauty, you've been to a town, you describe the town, you entertain a person. So yes, it's a task. It's not easy. And you should know that it could be that they will never write to you back, and that's not because they're not grateful, or write something really short and kind of indifferent. So, but it really depends on whether you want to do it or not, because that's not an easy thing. Okay, yeah.
Have there ever been cases of prisoner correspondence, that is letters sent to prisoners, then used by the FSB or the penitentiary to somehow make the life of the prisoner worse?
It's a very good question. I don't know such cases, but I want to say that it's getting worse and worse. For example, and that because my another topic, and I'm going to make a talk in the mid-February here as well in the Michigan University on the final statements of Russian political prisoners as a phenomena, actually as a literature genre, and a phenomena. And it's used to be an incredible thing that this booth, like Zhenya's last word, final statement, right? That booth, like the cage in court, was the last place from where Russian people could speak freely, because there was no censorship and you have nothing to lose because you're going to prison anyway, because everybody knows that it's already decided, you're not influencing anything, so you can say whatever. And people were saying kind of anti-war thing, anti-Putin things, but there are already 2 cases where people were taken again to court for what they said in their final statements. Already 2 cases. So I think it's getting worse and worse. As you know, in Stalin's time, there were no final statements. Or written in advance that, yes, I'm sorry, like all this, like Zinoviev and guys were saying, like, yes, we know, we kind of blame ourselves. But there is no cases you can say, I hate Stalin. Or maybe people were saying that, we don't know. But so now, so this also could happen because it's getting worse and worse. But so therefore, I think we should really write, those people who do that. We're just entertaining these people. I know people who actually send poems and short stories. Yeah.
I remember that after the detention of Zhenya and Svetlana,
yeah.
their attorney or some friends said that just write letters about bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, but just write.
Yeah, and my question is that I heard I remember that there was some rumors that Mikhailkov was also involved in this whole theoretical case. It's also
as I said,
the teacher of Zhenya from this
he's not Mikhailkov was her teacher, you think?
I read
no, I mean, he never was her teacher but he is the teacher. Yeah, well, that's what you mixed up. So, but I don't know because I thought we don't have time. Now we have time. So, so how? That's very because I've been asked lots and lots of times, and actually that's what I'm going to talk about. And why those, for example, why those last words, those final statements are allowed at all? Why they do that? Why they just don't stop it? Why? Because if you look from kind of outside on the Russian courtroom, it looks absolutely like American courtroom. Even more so, it looks like a courtroom is in American court series, which is very much what they are after. I promise. So, and they have, it's all kind of, they have everything, like the law, prosecution is talking, but the defense is talking, and the judge is looking to like all the witnesses are witnessing and everything. So it looks like absolutely proper court, and and even though the decision is made far before, so they don't need it. It's all theater. It's all stage. So the question is why they do need it. And the answer been given to us by Putin himself, and it's very much he is very much concentrated on it. Because as a journalist I know, but that's obvious, that all the questions he is asked on this straight lines and a press conference he had, they all premeditated. You cannot come in and say, okay, I'm going to ask a question. All the question goes through administration. So, and almost every time, the name of some political prisoner is popping up, and he is asked, and what about this case? Can you talk to us about that case? And actually, about Berkovich, he was also asked. And every time he's saying absolutely the same thing. He's saying, I don't know, it's not my business. We have justice, we have courts. Courts are independent, and that's the court decision. And so it is very important to him to say it every time. And sometimes he makes jokes about it because he is like a very, very funny person. And also sometimes he mentions that he is a lawyer by training, which is very important to him. And he's saying, yes, I'm a lawyer by training. So we have independent courts, and those courts is their decision. So this facilitates facade of, and even sometimes he is saying that yes, we have an independent courts, unlike in other countries. And then he makes examples about like injustice in America or Europe or whatever, which is true actually, but still. And I think that, so it's very intentionally made facade of like independent courts. Why I was talking about that? Sorry. Sorry. Yes. And so one of the witnesses was this guy who is a pupil of Mikhalkov, and who, after he witnessed against Zhenya and Sveta, got incredible career as an actor, and now he's in every soap opera and ever on television and Karpuk, yes. And because he was saying that as a man, he was insulted by feminism in this show. So it's like оскорбление чувств верующих, insult of the feelings of believers in manhood. So he was insulted as a man. So yeah, and that was the kind of his testimony. So, and he was a pupil of Mikhalkov, and there are lots of pictures Mikhalkov embracing him. Yeah, that was amazing. Okay, I don't know. I think that maybe because we can go have whatever, but we can talk in the corridor or whatever. Or you have more like...
Can I just to close the whole conversation, last question. So I know this week marks like half of 1,000
yeah,
days of
1,000 days. It's
so
yesterday, actually.
Is there any hope that she can be released earlier?
Legally, no. Legally, no, because first of all, extremism and terrorism cases, they kind of, according to law, you cannot get early release in terrorist and extremist cases. That's one thing, and she is going for extremism. And secondly, because she went to the SHU. After you have one of these kind of convictions, there is no way for preliminary.
So we would say the only hope for her, if like the whole.
The only hope to her is sit to the end and not to get the.
And we hope that they do not end.
Yeah, that she. Yeah. The only hope is that they are not going to prolong it, which happens to. Look at the situation now, and look at what's going on in America, because Putin is, and first of all, there are no really good spies left, Russian spies left in foreign prisons, because all the previous exchange, in its entirety was made because of this Krasikov guy. And that's, again, I was covering it because I'm based in Germany. I was covering the case. That's no issue about that. So the entire thing was actually done for this one guy. Putin wanted to get, the guy who killed the Chechen in Tiergarten in Berlin, who killed the person from Chechen resistance. And so I cannot see, if Trump and Putin at some point kiss each other and I don't know, something this, which can happen, and Putin will become the head of this committee of peace or board of peace thing, which I believe he is asked to do, which is like Putin and peace is like oxymoron on its own, but whatever. Of course, we can kind of fantasize, something like that can happen. But actually, I'm pessimistic. I am in this way. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you very much.